Hello and welcome to the Menopause Mindshift Self-Love Podcast, where we are shifting the way women do menopause. I am your host, the menopause queen, Lisa R. Triggs, best-selling author and motivational speaker for women in menopause. Today, I want to talk about self-worth. Self-worth, self-love, let's break it down. You've tried affirmations. You've repeated mantras. But the nagging feeling of not enoughness still lingers. The truth is, self-worth isn't just a thought, it's a profound bodily experience. In today's episode, I'm going to reveal the powerful embodied practices that will finally move you beyond empty words, transforming your relationship with yourself and unlocking a deeply rooted sense of inner value. Imagine waking up truly feeling your worth, not just thinking about it. Today, I'm going to guide you through my own transformational journey, offering you ideas that can reshape not only how you think about yourself, but how you think about your life and everyone in it. So let's dive in. When I think about self-worth, I tie it with self-love. There's a connection there because for me, they both break down to how you feel about yourself. If you're not feeling you're worthy of something, someone, then you're most likely not valuing yourself or the other people for that matter. So here's what it comes down to, in my opinion, and from my own personal experience. And I'll remind you again that everything I speak about is from my own personal experience. I have either lived it, researched it, and I talk a lot about self-worth. This whole podcast, my whole brand is around self-love. But how is that connected to worth? How you value yourself? It's a little bit of a tough one because different people have different value systems. So they put a different set of values on their own worth or on their own love for themselves. So it can be kind of complicated. So for me, to boil it down to simpler terms, the truth is, it's a choice. It's a choice that I make every day to value and love myself, to consider myself worthy of love from other people, from myself, from the world, and to also know that my worth doesn't have a price on it. It actually upsets me a little bit. Our societal rules upset me a little bit because we do so many things upon a society. If you work for somebody else or for yourself for that matter, we put a dollar sign to it with how much we get paid. And that can define your worth as an employee, as a business person. But those are external things. But yet we tie it to our own self-worth and how we view ourselves and what we're capable of. But we shouldn't. We are always worthy. We are worthy beings, each and every one of us individually. But yet society collects us together. It says, if you do this, the value of that job is worth this. If you do this, the value of that job is worth this. If you behave like this kind of people is going to love you. If you're going to behave like this, that kind of people is going to love you. Okay, but here's the honest truth. It all starts in here. I believe that the value we put on ourselves will actually dictate what kind of education you get, where you go to school, what kind of job you end up doing, and then how much you are paid. So these external things become the result of the internal feeling, sense of internal worth. So according to the Google gods, they are slightly different, closely related and supportive of each other, but not exactly the same. The definition of self-worth is an internal sense of value and dignity that is not dependent on achievements, external validation, or the opinion of others. It is inherent and constant. An example they give is believing you are a good person even after making a mistake. The definition of self-love is the practice of treating yourself with kindness, respect, and care, much like you would a close friend. It is an active choice and practice that takes effort, especially on difficult days. An example is choosing to rest when you are exhausted, setting boundaries with others, or forgiving yourself for a failure. So here's the relationship between the two. Practicing self-love helps to build and reinforce your self-worth. And a strong sense of self-worth makes it easier to practice self-love. A foundation. A strong sense of self-worth provides a stable foundation for self-love, making your acts of self-care more meaningful and less likely to be in the pursuit of external validation, which is exactly what I was getting to. The external validation, right? That's what's put on self-worth, the external validation from other people. So one leads to the other. Which comes first? Self-love. Like I was saying a few minutes ago before I read the definitions, how you feel about yourself, which can be dictated by the environment you were raised in, the kind of home, the kind of family situation, what kind of love you experienced yourself or lack thereof as a child when you're growing up. How did your siblings treat you? What was it like when you were in school growing up? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you have a lot of self-confidence? Were you picked on or teased or bullied? These are insightful things. These are actually deep conversations. This is an inner journey. That's a deep inner journey to go on, because the journey of self-love and self-worth are going to require some inner work and possibly shedding some things you're carrying around with you that are from the past, from your childhood. I know I've had to do it. And let me be clear, it's an ongoing process, because life is life. There are things that come up where you might be triggered, or some people don't like the word triggered. It might bring back up something that you maybe thought you had dealt with in the past. So here's the thing about the past that I've come to realize in my own journey is that it's gone. So it was a big thing to recognize that I can't do anything about it. I can't change it. I can only work on the present moment for that matter. But yet we spend all this energy and time and feelings on the past. And the question is, how do we truly let go of it in order to be present and then move forward as the person that you are and want to continue to be, or even are right now and are working towards being? These are deep conversations. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to take in. And let's be honest here, it requires work. It requires work. It requires an inner journey to learn, to teach, to train your brain, basically, because it all roots back to that, in my opinion. Anyway, you can train your brain to think a certain way. So you can actually train your brain not to react to the past anymore. And there are different ways to do it. I'm not suggesting that meditation and the tools that I use are going to completely relieve you of your past. It's highly doubtly it will. You're going to need more than that. But what do you do? Okay, so let's break it down some methods. Counseling, talking with someone else to be able to work through those feelings of the past and how they made you feel and how you still carry that with you, and how to shed that and release it. Something that's worked for me is the bless and release. Writing it down, tearing it up, or burning it, being able to get it off of my mind onto paper, and then getting rid of it. Even if it's a book, I don't often keep my old journals. I get rid of them. Yes, there's good stuff in there too. Tear out the pages and keep that, but get rid of the bad stuff. Subconsciously keeping it around you in your house, in your space, subconsciously you'll hang on to that. It's quite possible. And that's the next thing. Work on the subconscious mind. I'm talking a lot about the subconscious mind and how powerful it is lately. So that's where some meditation may come in within the subconscious mind. But you know what? It may require going to a professional in order to get to the deep root of things. Someone who specializes in hypnotherapy. And here's the last thing though, and I think this is most important, is making the choice. Being aware of these feelings, and if it's presented to you, recognizing it, saying, that's bringing me back to this place. And I don't want to go there. So right now, in this very minute, I'm going to choose to think about this instead. I'm going to choose to think about the good things that are going on in my life right now, in this moment, and what I am grateful for right now in this moment, rather than worry about what went on in the past that I cannot change. I am going to put the worth that I know I deserve on myself right now in this moment, which is everything. I deserve all the love that I can give myself and others around me. There is no dollar sign that is attributed to my self-worth because I am worth infinite. There is no value because it's infinite. That made me feel great just saying it. That made me feel awesome just saying that. So if something's starting to bring you down, I do this. This is a tip from me to you. Another one, if I feel myself going down, feeling low down that rabbit hole, pause. What am I grateful for in this very moment? Looking around my room, what do I have to be grateful for in this very moment? But not just what's around me outside. What am I grateful for in here? This morning, it was a simple thing. I actually wrote this down, but I was grateful for my breath this morning. Okay? To be able to wake. It's a simple thing, but it's a lot, and it's impactful, and it's valuable. You can write down, here's an exercise for the next week. At some point during the day, sit down and write down 3 things that you find valuable about yourself. Here's an example. I value my sense of humor. Laughing is a wonderful healer. If you're feeling sad, put on a comedy. Second, I value my choice in music. That's another thing that will bring you up. Put on your favorite music. Rock out. The third one is, I value my kind heart. Kindness goes a long way. But start that kindness with yourself. Showing that kindness to yourself before you show it to others. We're too rough on ourselves. Sometimes the old saying, you're your own worst enemy, absolutely true. Whether it's to be polite, save face, conform to society again, we're modest. I'm guilty of it. If someone compliments me, I used to bring it down, diminish it, say, oh, it's just this. I always say thank you. Thank you first. Thank you. Oh, it's nothing. But now I say that thank you. Thank you so much. And oftentimes I return the compliment. And you, whatever. I love this about you. I love that you're doing this. A little kindness goes a long way with yourself and others. But isn't it interesting how we put all these things into our own self-values, self-worth, how we feel about ourselves? We have to stop. Stop worrying about what other people think and do and say. I have to tell you that when I was younger, I was a bit of a hyper person. And my metabolism was very high or something like that. And I would upset easily, anger easily. As I got older and was in different situations, I did have to learn how to be appropriate in social settings. But let's be clear, there's a difference in being appropriate in social settings, politeness, all that kind of thing, and tying your sense of self-love and self-worth in with that. So for me, there was a time where I would not have cared what anybody thought of me. I didn't care if I said something wrong or I did something wrong. I was who I was, and that was who I was. But now I understand that the reasons behind that attitude stem deeper, more into how I felt about myself. And that was tied into things that happened, right? I was teased for many years as a child, spent a lot of time alone as a child and young teen. So then there was no one kind of around guiding me in what to say, what not to say, for one thing. But another thing, I carried around anger with me and resentment and pain. So that's what was coming out. Though I didn't know that's what was happening at the time, that's what was coming out. Till even a couple of years ago, when I realized I was having social difficulties. I talk about it in my book, about being in a social setting, and I just felt this overwhelming feeling that's even kind of hard to put into words. It just gripped me and I just became quiet. And if you want to put a label on it, I guess it would be PTSD, is what the doctor told me. Most likely was. I was in a situation where I was triggered by an event, and it right away made me feel less than. It made me feel devalued. It made me feel unwanted, unvalued as a person. So it upset me. And I had a hard time containing it and not showing it. My husband always tells me that I'm not really good at all hiding my feelings. You can always tell on my face, what's going on with me, that I show it. But I've also come to say, to realize that within reason, that's okay. There are some cases where I intentionally let people know just, by my face or my expression, just how I'm feeling about something. That's intentional. And that's the point I'm getting to, is that's the difference. A few years ago when I was in that situation and I had that happen where, I just had this feeling and some people, thought I was rude or whatever. But because I just got quiet and somebody asked me a question, I answered their question. I may or may not have been polite. I don't exactly recall. And it wasn't necessarily intentional to be rude or anything like that. But I was just having a really difficult time containing my emotions in that very moment. I did eventually get a hold of things. Some other people came into play, and I was able to talk with them and all that. In the end, I was able to put my feelings aside for the rest of the evening and deal with it. But my initial response, what I really wanted to do when I initially had this feeling, was leave, was fight or flight. I said to my husband, I want to leave. And he wouldn't come with me for his own reasons at the time. So I stayed. And I later said to him, I said, if you would have left with me, that situation would have been different. I needed your support in that moment. I put value on myself in that moment for external reasons. And later, in talking about the situation with my husband, I said, should I apologize to this person for if I spoke to them, if they think, actually, perception, if they think that I spoke to them in an ill manner. And I decided not to. I decided that I didn't need to save face with this person because in the end, their opinion of me didn't matter. Only my opinion of myself mattered. And I knew what was going on with me. And I knew what happened in that moment. And the fact of the matter is, it ended up that that person was part of the problem. So, and this person is not really in my life, so it doesn't really matter to me. Now, I could have put my tail between my legs and, done the polite thing and say, I'm so sorry that I behaved that way. And that's all well and good and nice. And some of you might think that I probably should have done that, but I decided not to because if I would have done that, I would have let that person have control. So, and here's the flip side of it. Afterward, other than the one person who knew my situation at this event, no one else contacted me to ask if I was okay. So that's the reason that I decided that it doesn't matter to me what this person thinks of me, because they're not coming to me and saying, is everything okay with you? And not that they needed to. Of course they didn't need to. But it would have been nice. It would have been caring. It would have been kind. It would have been friendly. But instead, I was the villain. But that's okay, because I also didn't want to paint myself as a victim. I never want to paint myself as a victim. I never want to be a victim. And it's funny how we do that. We can paint ourselves as victims. I mean, sure, it's easy to do, but that's passing the blame. That's passing the blame onto somebody else and not taking responsibility for your own actions, which, by the way, I do from this case. I totally took responsibility for my own actions within myself, because I'm the only one who was really affected by the situation, if I really think about it. So I didn't want to let my self-worth be dictated by somebody else. And that's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is knowing my own self-worth, owning my own behavior, owning my own worthiness, owning how I feel about myself, and not worrying about what anybody else thinks of me. So I almost want to be that younger person of myself again, because she actually didn't care what people thought more than menopausal Lisa did. Menopausal Lisa learned how to care what other people thought. Menopausal Lisa became lost, couldn't find herself, didn't care. So in essence, it wasn't necessarily a fact that I didn't care about what other people thought. It's just that I didn't care about anything, if that makes sense. Call it the hormonal imbalances, whatever. And of course, the hormones, of course, dictated and can dictate how your emotions are going, whether they're up, down. But here's the thing I've learned is that we allow them to. I got blood work done last week and my estrogen level is higher than it was before, but it's not normal. But here's the thing. I'm still a happy person and I'm not letting it control me because I'm literally using my head about it and saying, I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose to be happy. And I know what to do along with that choice to make that choice easier. Doing things like moving our body in the right way, eating the right foods and things like that, that helps make mental clarity. So that helps make the choice to being happy that much easier. I always talk about the chain reaction, how one thing is connected to the next and the next and the next. So this is a prime example of that. Yeah, sure, I talk about deciding with the brain a lot, but I also talk about the physical part of it. So here's the best thing that I did for myself was starting to, for physicalness anyway, just to help that connection, right? Meditation calms the nervous system, lowers cortisol. Then moving the body in the right way, doing weight training, that muscle, building that muscle, doing that kind of thing, that helps produce the endorphins, dopamine, all that kind of stuff, makes you feel happier, lowers the, or stabilizes the blood sugar a little bit more. So you are naturally have the capability when you are choosing to be happy. It's not rocket science. It's really not. Things are all connected. When I talk about making the choice, it's an inspired choice because I know from experience now that because I've been busy the last little while, I've been busy and I haven't been putting my physical health first. So I started wanting to eat more sugar. I've been feeling a little more tired again, actually having trouble sleeping, even having some hot flashes. So I'm like, yeah, no sense beating up on myself because that's not going to do me any good. Let's just start again. Getting back to the gym is that choice, the conscious choice. It makes it easier to make those other choices when your brain is functioning properly. Okay, so what does all this have to do with self-worth and self-love? Well, everything. Because it's all connected. Oh, so release limiting beliefs about yourself, about other people, about worth you put on yourself. The worth we put on ourselves, how we value ourselves, dictates so much else. So what are our takeaways from today? Stay present, be aware, make conscious choices, value yourself, who you are, not what you do, who you are inside, your heart. That's a different kind of value to put on yourself than a monetary one. If you think about it, we are worth less because we are worth everything. In actuality, there is no number to go with the worth that we hold as beings. Today's episode of the Menopause Mindshift Self-Love Podcast has been a deep dive into what self-love and self-worth are, what they are, the connection between them, and the differences. So I hope you tune in and be sure to like and subscribe if this resonates with you. Thank you so much. And please remember, self-love first. Bye for now.